Well, I've been sketching this little vase for some time. I will have already on the video shown you a picture of the mask being made. And this was the artwork for it, for the sphere. You will see that it's not quite circular, and that is because it's going to bend around the glass, which I've already done and sandblasted very basically. And it looks rounder now than in the flat. You've got to allow for the shape of the vessel sometimes. And so I've sketched this rather rugged looking arm, and scarily I've used a photograph of my own hand holding a crystal football, which I'll slot a photograph in of in the video. That sphere is already sandblasted, and I will be polishing it out much more, and then the little fairy inside I will sketch on, and that will be surface engraved. So in other words, it won't be deep, because the sphere itself is going to be, it's got to look like it's over the front of it. So you can't make it deep. It really needs to look as though it's inside the ball, the little fairy. And in order to produce maybe highlights over the top of the sphere, which will look even more like a glass ball, well, bubble really, in order to do that, you need a smoother surface, a flatter surface. Because if I deeply engraved a fairy in that, you wouldn't be able to successfully put highlights of the ball over the top of it. So we've got the sandblasting here, and we'll have surface engraving here, but of course the rest of this body, well, the arm, will be very deeply engraved, because that'll be fun. And as you can see, it is really thick crystal. And then I realized, oh, hold on a minute. The underside of the arm needs to be down at the back, where it is slightly up at the front. So I really had the back the wrong way around. So when you see a mistake, the first thing you do is fix it. Anyway, I think that's a little bit better, a little bit more realistic, as real as a dragon can be anyway. Well, I hope you can all hear me. What I'm going to do first of all is use this little green stone, and I'm just going to mark off everything that I've drawn. It's only very rough. And you'll notice I've got a white background, and that is so that you can see it showing up. Everything will be neatened up once I get into it properly. Turn your glass around if you're not able to get a good stroke on it. It's just a little green stone, as I say. The green stone gives sort of the same sort of hue as sandblasting, funny enough. You'll find more efficient. The noise you can hear in the background is my dust extractor. So I haven't got a mask on at the moment because I want to make sure you can hear me properly. Right, I have done all the outline, just the very, very basics of it, and now you will see that on taking away the white background and giving it a little clean with something, anything. Oh, sponge, don't know where my sponge is. Anyway. It won't come off the sandblasting so easy, but that is not a problem at this point because it will be engraved off anyway. This is a permanent marker, but as you see, it comes off with water anyway. But it hangs in there just long enough for me to work with it. Okay, that's what water does to engraving. It makes it disappear. And then get your towel. Give it a wipe. Nice soft dish towel. Nothing too harsh. I shouldn't actually have my rings on because you manage to scratch the edge with your rings. That won't be very good, so I'm being very delicate. Anyway, here's another bit of background. And you can see as it dries off, the engraving becomes very apparent. And you can see the very basic shape of that. Ooh, it's quite exciting. Quite exciting. Alrighty then. Right, I'm back. Hi everybody, got my mask on. Can't run the dust extractor because it makes too much noise, so I'm a little bit muffled anyway with the mask on. I hope that it comes out clear enough. Okie dokes. Right, the first thing I'm doing is I am starting to polish the little crystal ball. So hang on, let me adjust this, hold on. Right, that's better. The crystal ball, first of all, needs to be very gently polished. Probably one of the most difficult things to do in engraving is to shade it so that it grades beautifully without horrible steps. So this is quite tricky. I had sandblasted the edges, leaving the little bit in the middle that's not sandblasted. But it requires quite a bit of work. I thought I'd point out actually, because I noticed my hands look very dry on the screen. They are very dry because I do a lot of sandblasting, a lot of engraving, and I cannot put cream on. You can't put cream on while you're working with glass because the grease will go into the engraving and will be very difficult to get out. So keep your hands nice and dry. Okay, let's have a look. Now, one of the things that I've been using for this, I have started a little bit, is I've got a really, really old block of Dialux and I have no idea which one it is. From what I can remember, it was in a red box. It's it's sort of like a lump of goop which I use with a little felt burr. I run it in a little bit of water and then I pick up a little bit and then there we go, and I just polish round and round and round and round and round and round. If you don't have anything like this around, if you can't get any, I think there's pretty much plenty online because it's used for metals. It's I would say the jewelers probably use it. Otherwise, there's another thing you can do, and that's take an ordinary grey rubber. That's how it works. There we are, grey rubber. And literally by hand, grade the edges. It's quite interesting. You wouldn't think it would make a mark, but it does. And the reason why I'm doing this ever so gently is because if I put in the drill, it really will make a line, a hard line, and I don't want that. I want a gentle grade. Anyway, so I'm just going to plod along with this for a while, and let's see if you can see that. You can see that. As I mentioned before, we got to try and create a surface, because this is a solid surface and the little fairy is going to be trapped inside that. So it's all going to be very lightly engraved, and then at the very end I will put the highlights over the top so that it looks like a round surface. While I'm here, I'm going to show you quickly what this grey rubber will do in the drill at sort of a lowish speed, not too hard, not too fast, because we're going to shade underneath just where the claw touches, and then you engrave the claw deeply on top of that, but you can go back over and over again and make more shading if you like. But this is what it does. Can you see that? Now what I'm going to do here is take this grey burr and now engrave in the middle of that, because at the moment there's absolutely no engraving in there, and this means that it actually looks like there's a hole in it. It needs to have a surface, even if there is the slightest hue. And then once I've engraved the little fairy, in between the smallest spaces will still be the upper surface, and then the highlight over the top will immediately put her behind the surface. I'm going to show you, I'll just show you the very, very, very middle bit. Okay, waste of time really, because this is going to be where she is, but you should be able to see, I hope. Let's make a tiny mark. Creating a surface of some description, the slightest hue, so it is not a hole. That's why in all the engraving that I do, the realistic engraving, the 3D engraving, even the very, very darkest part, the middle of the pupil, as black as it is and clear as it is still engraved, because if it wasn't, it would look like there's a hole in a person's head instead of a pupil. Back to this again. Blend, 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 blend. Leaving the edges, of course, with a lovely little white shine. And of course, I've sandblasted. If you can't sandblast, then very, very, very carefully using a diamond, all you have to do is use a diamond for that. Not easy. Working wet, you would work wet preferably, or at least I prefer to work wet with a diamond. So a diamond on a wet, slippery, curved surface to make a perfect circular edge is not easy. That's why I sandblast it.